The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like expecting the leadership of a team captain on the football field, but getting a sea captain. You wouldn't settle for just anything for your team. Shouldn't it be the same for your insurance? So don't settle for just any insurance when you can go with a leader. State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hello everyone and welcome to How Are the Podcast. It's Gav and you join us bang on full time as we react to Sunderland's defeat on the road to Bristol City, a 2-1 loss at Ashton Gate. It was a game full of controversy and drama and all the rest of it, despite not being a particularly important game. So anyways, we're going to talk about it today and get right into it. First off, we've got Johnny Hawley. Hello, mate.
All right, Gav. How are you doing?
Yes, not bad at all. And also here is Bomber. Hello, mate.
Hello, Gav. Hello, Johnny.
This is becoming your forte, this the reaction pod, Bomber.
It is, yeah. I'm quite enjoying it, if not for the results and the performances. I'm enjoying speaking about it.
Yeah, let's get straight into it then. So we lost today, and I think before the game, most Sunderland fans were resigned to the fact like these remaining games aren't particularly important in terms of results. We want to see performances. We want to see bits in the performances which we can take out of it and go, that's good. That's maybe not so good. Things we can learn from it. And as a learning experience, this was a really tough one because 6 minutes into the game, we get a red card and we'll start straight off with that because for me, that defined really the way the game went. I put a poll up on Twitter and I asked the Rotor Report followers who are mainly Sunderland fans, so you expect a bit of bias, but I asked Hume's red card, correct decision or not? 7.6% out of 1,083 people said correct. And 92.4% of people said incorrect. Now, this red card offence, I'll go at you both. I don't want your opinion. I just want, was it a red, yes or no, Bomber?
No.
Johnny?
No,
definitely not. I think we're all in agreement that it was not a red card. This referee, man, fuck's sake. We were complaining about officials last week, Bomber, and just the ineptitude of them as a group. Well, this referee, he was horny to get that red out. He was desperate, wasn't he? It was straight out of his pocket.
He couldn't wait. He literally couldn't wait because I think if a better referee, I don't know how experienced he is, so I won't say a more experienced referee, but let's say a fundamentally better referee would have taken a bit of time to kind of assess the situation, have a little think about it, and maybe take not even like 5-6 seconds just to reflect on what's actually happened. But, no sooner had he blown the whistle, he was already reaching for that red card. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he didn't stop to think whether Trai Hume had actually touched him. I've seen 2 or 3 different angles. I still can't tell whether he touched him or not. I don't think he did. Maybe even consult the linesman because, he's behind play, and the linesman, for all intents and purposes, can look straight across it and can see, or probably in a better position to see whether Trai Hume touches him or not. But yeah, it's just awful. The only thing that I would say on the officiating is that we're only moaning about the referee this week and not all 3 of the linesmen.
Yeah, it was a tough one to take, really, Johnny, for the players, because the manager said in his press conference before the game about how, this could be a learning experience for us because we get to see how they set up and it could be an indicator for a potential playoff game. And 6 minutes in, it just throws that out the window. Again, like I said to Bomber last week when we were in the beer garden, I'm just glad that this isn't an important game that these decisions have affected, because it was poor. I know in that moment referees have got to make a decision, and they're in the headset with their assistant, so it may well be that the linesman said, "Yeah, penalty" or whatever, and they don't have the benefit of VAR. But I can't see how he's given that. I just can't see it. There's quite clearly no contact. Hume premeditates what's about to happen and pulls his hands away, which sometimes you can think, that's a sign that he's actually done something. But he sees what the lad's about to do. He sees what Naki Wells is about to do a good 2 seconds before he does it, and lifts his arms as if to say, I haven't touched him here. And I mean, it's just, to me, just a really, really poor decision. And it's like I say, it's a good job it's not an important game. I mean, it is an important game in terms of the playoffs. When you look at Bristol City, they needed to win that game to just try and solidify their position in the top six. So I guess it was an important decision, really.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you've used the words that Trai Hume knew what Naki Wells was about to do, because he buys that foul. You could see it coming an absolute mile off. Hume can see it. He raises his arms, and then Wells just steps across him, lunges, basically intentionally loses his balance, and then, tumbles in a heap. And as you say, the referee couldn't have got the card out quicker. It was farcical, to be honest. It was one of those where you see the card come out and then you have to do a bit of a double take. Like, hang on, is he meant to send him off there? Like, what is that even for? Not even getting into whether it was a clear goal scoring opportunity or not and all that nonsense. But yeah, just in my opinion, just a ridiculous decision. Totally agree with yous. But it is a shame as well that it did kind of spoil the game.
Totally spoiled it. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we were lucky that we've ended up seeing an absolutely world-class goal from Mayenda and other moments in the game, and a great goal from Bristol City, to be fair. But like you say, with the way that Lebris especially has talked about wanting to use these games as preparation, and he would have wanted to get a good look at Bristol City today. That's just all out the window 6 minutes in, and then it means that you're running the other 10 lads who are left on the pitch. They're running themselves into the ground for the next 85 minutes, more than they would have, because they've got to cover the ground for the extra man. And yeah, it's not the way you want to start a game of football, is it?
I think that's exactly plays into what we were saying at the end of the Swansea game. When we were sat in the Hilton, Gavin, we were saying that, these games don't really matter, but what we think we'll see and what we hope we'll see is something different against Bristol City. We'll go down to Bristol, potential playoff rival, and we'll start to see us try and move through the gears. And that opportunity for us to see that was just taken away. What I would say is that first 7 minutes up until that red card, we were seeing something slightly different. We pressed them high. We didn't see any of the the Patterson, Mepham 09 triangles that we've become accustomed to seeing. So it looked like we were going to get something different, and then all of a sudden the red card happens, and anything that was pre-planned is just out the window then.
Yeah, you're right as well. We started pretty well, and credit to the players, I think, for the majority of the game until we started changing it with subs, and we'll get onto that. But until that point, I think we did a really good job of containing them, and we looked organised. I thought the way that Daniel stepped into the defence, I thought he did really well. It showed a lot of character from the players to just because they had to get reorganised, and everybody moved around a little bit. You then had Lefay and Rigg as the middle two, which isn't ideal. There's no chance that'll ever be a starting pair in the middle. But they worked okay together. Mayenda at the top took the pressure off as much as he could, and he was winning the battles against some big centre-halves. And I think, actually, as a test run for if you potentially go out with 10 men, it wasn't too bad. We did okay. It was only at that point in the second half when we clearly tried to make premeditated subs. We were giving Lefay so many minutes, we were giving Mayenda so many minutes, and et cetera, and et cetera. It was at that point, really, that the game got away from us a little bit. But if I'm honest, brutally honest, I'm not impressed at all with Bristol City. I was expecting to see more, considering I'd heard going into the game they're the most informed team in the league. They're difficult to beat and all this and that. Yeah, I was watching them and thinking they've got nothing about them. I mean, the first goal came from a defender who's got a record of doing that, by the way, Rob Dickey. I think he's done a few of them in his career where he bangs them in from long. Sort of like knuckleballed it, didn't he? And it was a absolutely brilliant strike. And then the second one's just a, poor touch from Job, and it falls to the lad and it goes through. But I think in a 11v11 competitive game, our strongest team against theirs, I would back us over 2 legs over them. That was my big takeaway from that.
in some sort of perverse way, losing 2-1 isn't actually a bad result for us, because over two,
Yeah.
I would take playing Bristol City over 2 legs any day of the week over anyone else that's got any potential of playing we've got potential of playing in the semi-final of a playoff.
You mean Coventry, Bomber? Is that the one that you're trying not
Coventry,
to say there?
or even Middlesbrough? You take Bristol City over Middlesbrough as well, because you've got the regional thing with Coventry, and obviously with Middlesbrough, sorry, and Coventry have obviously got the better of us in recent weeks and recent matches, but they're by far and away the worst team I've seen within that top 8 or 9 teams. So yeah, if we've helped them on the way to securing 5th place and getting battered by us over 2 legs in May, then I'm actually not that disappointed with it.
Not just in terms of it being a decent result for us, being something that we think. I imagine that's probably, I'm not saying that the staff have gone out there to say, all right, let's lose this game, right? But you could tell as the game wore on that Lebris was like you said, pre-planned, premeditated subs, just getting people minutes, moving people about the pitch. Mayenda started up front, then he moved out to the wing. Joe Anderson gets on the pitch. I mean, none of these were the signs of a team who were desperate to take 3 points. Not that the players on the pitch weren't trying, but everything, the way that we set up after the red card just screamed like, get out of this unscathed, don't get any injuries, and don't get any more sendings off, and I'll be happy. Which I think was the way to go about it.
Put it this way, Johnny, you at 2-1 down, you don't, or were we 2-1 down at that point? No, I don't think we were, actually. I was going to say at 2-1 down, you don't take Enzo Lefebvre off and put Samed on. But I guess equally, if it's 1-1 and you're trying to win a game, you don't make such a defensive substitution as that either. So yeah, it's quite clear that result was kind of secondary for us today. It was. I think it was probably more about performance, but the opportunity to perform was taken away from us.
I think, though, your point that you were trying to make there, Bomber, anyways, still stands, because he took Mayenda off and brought on Brown when we went, literally seconds after we went 2-1 down.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm not bothered that he did that, because Eliezer Mayenda had ran his arse off, and we're going to need him. And I mean, I want to talk about him, actually, because for me, that was a proper centre-forwards performance. I think he didn't have loads of the ball, but what he did have of the ball, he was brilliant. I mean, he nearly created 2 or 3 overloads on the counter attack where we were like 4v3 or 4v4. Obviously the goal which he scored, which was just, you called it world class, and it was to pick the ball up where he did, basically on the edge of his own box. And it wasn't like he had a straight run up the pitch towards goal. He had to take on 4 or 5 players really, who and they couldn't get near him. I mean, he was jinking in and out. He was dropping his shoulder. He was slowing it down, then going back down. He was just, I mean, it was an outstanding goal. And the one thing that people have said about Eliezer Mayenda this season is that whilst he's got that in his locker, that ability to break and dribble and all the rest of it, the finishing isn't there. But I would say on that evidence, I think he's improved a hell of a lot. And, I said this last week, I think he's our best striker. And I think they know that. And I think that's maybe why Isadore's been getting more minutes, just to try and get Isidore back into form. But I think I would be shocked going into the playoffs if Mayenda's not the one leading the line. And he, to be honest, if there was any doubt or if it was still up in the air, to do something like he did and then do it again a couple more times, and it nearly came off then as well, was just absolutely impeccable. There was one moment where, after he'd scored, where it was a long ball up, and Rob Dickey must be, 6'4", 6'5", he's a big, strapping centre-half, and he just bullied him. Mayenda just went, bang, get off us, and not just, he doesn't just do that thing where, like, typical centre-forward player, back to goal, back into the centre-half, hold it up and all that. He gets away with the ball too, in terms of, he manages to spin and go the other way, and he'd done that repeatedly, and I just think he deserves a lot of credit for how he played, because it's a horrible job being the centre-forward in a team with 10 men, when you basically know, I'm not going to barely touch the ball here, and when the ball gets hoofed up, I'm going to be lucky if it's within 15 yards of us. But he done a fantastic job, and we suffered from him going off the pitch. I think in a proper game, he stays on, and we stand a far better chance of getting back into it. And I just think Eliezer Mayenda, yet again, is shown the rest of the division why they really do need to be afraid of him.
Yeah, and I just want to say as well with the goal specifically, I mean, the clarity of thought when he breaks past the 2 players that he kind of beats initially, and then he actually gets on the run into their half. you can tell immediately he knows exactly what he's going to do. Like, he's running with purpose, the way that he runs at the defenders and then he beats them, cuts inside. He's got the presence of mind to hold off his shot as he like slightly starts losing his footing, puts it back across the keeper. Like, he does everything right. And obviously for the goal, it looks spectacular because it all comes off all the way to the finish. But even the other times he was picking up the ball, there was the one where he like laid it off to Roberts, who had a shot, and the keeper pushed it wide. Nearly every time he got on the ball, it felt like he already knew what his plan was, which I think if you were going to be criticising sort of early season Mayenda, it would probably be that rawness in his game was such that he didn't have that speed of thought and the ability to just assess a situation immediately. And that, you know, he was missing a few chances, and there were times where he used to beat people and then he's kind of slashing at it and he's using the wrong foot or whatever it might be. But yeah, today that was such a mature performance. I mean, to say that the kid's 19 years old still, to be able to break that out down to 10 men, you know, away against the playoff chaser in the Championship, that's just absolutely phenomenal. And he deserves enormous credit for it.
Yeah. What about you, Bomber? What do you reckon of Mayenda?
Yeah, so I was going to say, it's no coincidence that his kind of upturn in form coincides with his time away with the national team with Spain. You know, the amount of confidence that would have given him, and that exposure to international football, albeit at youth level, but that exposure to international football will have done his confidence a world of good. And you know, playing against international class players, albeit for a couple of games or so, he's come back from that almost like a different player, and certainly a developed player in such a short space of time. And I think his hat's off to him, because we don't have to go too far back. We're only talking like January, February time, when Isidore was like the messiah and absolutely untouchable. You know, when he's lifting Riverside corner flags up above his head with the shirt on. You know, he went through that run where he scored 6 goals in 8 games or something like that. And we weren't even talking about Mayenda then. We weren't really discussing him. It was all about Wilson Isidore. And, you know, it was about keeping him fit, and, you know, maybe Mayenda could do a job up front if he ends up like needed to be on the sidelines for whatever reason. And now, in the space of 6 weeks, I'd say he's made a perfectly good case to be our main striker. And all of a sudden, Isidore's playing catch up, regardless of the numbers of goals and assists, etc. It feels like on performances and on confidence, Isidore is playing catch up to Mayenda now.
Yeah, and that's what you want. Going into the end of the season, you want players in form, and I'm absolutely fine with the fact that Mayenda's the man. I think, generally speaking, when it comes down to who plays the lone role better, it's him, because he can do a bit of everything. But yeah, like I say, you know, those are the positives. We focus a lot on them. Negatives, I mean, the defending for the second goal wasn't fantastic, and maybe that's just a little bit of slackness from Job coming cold off the bench and not playing a bit recently. I don't know, but it wasn't brilliant. It's difficult to really pick too many faults though, isn't it, Johnny? Like we can look at the goals and say, well, we could have done this better and that better, but I don't know. I'm struggling to be bothered about it. Is that daft to say? I'm just not bothered.
No, I know exactly what you mean, because yeah, on another day in a more important game, you're looking at Job and that touch for the second goal, and you know he's probably getting slated and crucified on social media right now because people will be fuming and saying you've cost us the game. But when it's today and down to 10 men for so long, it really is tough to dig any of them out. The only player I think who really did disappoint us was Tommy Watson. You know, we're not going to turn it into the slag Tommy Watson off podcast, but that to me was just like unacceptable. I think the level of application that we saw, and look, we're not inside his head. We don't know his levels of desire and his levels of commitment, but just from the outside looking in, that didn't look like a player who wanted to be here or be on the pitch or be getting into any duels with anybody that wasn't in a red and white shirt. You know what I mean? He was terrified of everyone who wasn't on his own team, which that was disappointing. But even then, like you say, it's tough to get too wound up about it, because once Mundell's back, he's not going to play anyway. And then come the summer, he's off. So, you know, it's not like it's critical stuff for us. But yeah, I think beyond that, like you say, the defending for the second goal was a little bit lax. And there were a few hairy moments, you know. I think Neil had a bit of a loose header in the box at one point that they could have created a chance from. And, you know, goal line block from Hjelde and a great last-ditch block from Meppen. But that's part and parcel of being down to 10 men, I think.
Yeah, I think just on Tommy Watson, I don't know if I want to slate him too much, but it's hard, isn't it? Because we came away from the Swansea game and said, like, there were moments there where we could tell he wasn't putting 100% in. And again, I don't know whether he's just becoming a bit more of a figure of sort of everybody's focus because, you know, he's leaving and people aren't happy about it or whatever, but he's not helping himself either, is he, Bomber? Because that wasn't great today. I do again, though, I feel sorry for the players when, you know, his job today from 6 minutes onwards was to basically defend like a fullback, and it's not in his nature. But I'll be honest, he looks to me like, if you ignore the fact that he had that run in November, December time, whenever it was, where he was getting into the team and playing well, if you ignore that, he looks like a player who's just not ready for this. He looks a mile off.
At the moment, he does, yeah. And, you know, he looked like, not the finished article is the wrong thing to say, but he looked like he was ready to make a challenge for the first team in that stretch that he had before he got injured. He's come back, and, you know, Brighton was probably already in his mind at the point at which he come back. I said last week on the reaction to the Swansea game that, you know, this Brighton deal would have been done long before it was announced, and for whatever reason it had to be announced by the club. So he's probably had that on his mind for a little while. I'm a little bit more loath to criticise him on it, because I don't think for 1 minute Tommy Watson isn't trying for the team. You know, he's a local lad. He's come up through the academy. He's a Sunderland boy. To end his Sunderland career, so to speak, by helping them get promoted to the Premier League, I'm sure would be at the very top of his list. But he's in that. I think there's a lot of players who could be accused of not putting their foot in or not wanting to get injured in the run up to the playoffs. But because Tommy Watson's leaving at the end of the season, it becomes an easy target to say, why he's not trying, he's not putting his foot in, he's not getting stuck in. There's a few other players who are probably guilty of that, but they'll, for all intents and purposes and likelihood, will be here next season. So we're a bit more loath to go in and criticise them. I'm sure Tommy Watson would love to be promoted with Sunderland and give us all something to cheer about and be happy about, and then move on with our best wishes to Brighton. But he's caught between a rock and a hard place, really. If you're a young lad and you've got a dream move to the Premier League, you don't want to put that in jeopardy. But then you've got your home fans and your hometown kind of relying on you a little bit. It's not an enviable position that he's in, and I think he is a little bit of a scapegoat for it at the minute. That said, today it wasn't great for all the improvements that we saw in some of the other players. He was down there in terms of his. If you were to rate him out of 10, he was down there.
Let's go through the team and let's do some player ratings as something a bit different. Johnny, start off with Patterson. Good game, I would say. Yeah, did okay considering he conceded 2 goals. What would you give him out of 10?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to go higher or lower than a 6, isn't it? No obvious howlers, nothing of note, middle of the road.
Yeah. Couple of moments there as well where he did things that he's, you know, when he's not had much confidence, he wouldn't have done, like come flying out and catching the ball. And I thought he slowed us down quite well at times in the first half. So yeah, 6, 7 out of 10, something like that. Defence, Bomber, we'll go right through the defence with you then. So left back, Leo Hjelde, right back, Trai Hume, Chris Mepham and Luke O'Nien. What we're giving everybody?
I mean, it's difficult to give Hume anything, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Really.
I'll
give him a sympathetic 7 because I don't think he should have been given the red card. So he'll get a 7 with a little asterisk on it. I think between Mepham and O'Nien as a centre back partnership, they're going from strength to strength. You know, it's going to sound silly because we lost the game, we conceded 2 goals, but the stats will tell you that Bristol City, you know, absolutely dominated us in terms of possession, in terms of shots and everything else. So, and there was a couple of times Mepham in particular made some really, really important blocks and really important challenges. So, you know, I would say Luke O'Nien was probably a little bit quieter, so he's probably a 6, but Mepham was certainly I would say a 7. And Leo Hjelde, you know, he was okay. It was a typical kind of Leo Hjelde performance in that there was a few kind of moments where you're kind of holding your breath or shaking your head, but then in other times he can look really good. So I would say he's probably a 5. He got a really, really silly booking which won't matter anything in the grand scheme of things, but it was something that he should be doing. He was the wrong side for starters. So, yeah, 5. So we're going 5 for Heckyalder, 8 for Mepham, 7 for O'Neill.
I'm going to go to the midfielders then. Dan Neil for me, although he didn't really play midfield, I give him an 8. I think he, considering he doesn't ever play centre-half, he didn't look out of place. And him and Mepham did a lot in terms of working together just to keep us organised, I felt. There's a couple of little moments where you can quite clearly tell he's a central midfielder playing at centre-half. But I just think he did well stepping in when we needed him to, because the alternative was probably bringing on Joe Anderson a lot earlier than they wanted to. And, we didn't want to do that. We wanted to keep our captain on the pitch and at least have some semblance of organisation. So Dan Neil gets an 8. Enzo Lefebvre, feel sorry for him because this just wasn't a game where he was going to impact at all. He just had to be organised alongside Rigg in the middle of the park. So, steady 6 for him. And then Chris Rigg, I actually thought started the game really, really well. And, a little bit like the Swansea game, I think he got his foot in a bit more. There was just a couple of moments where there was like one where I think if he'd executed the pass to Roberts we were counter-attacking, and all he had to do was put a bit of pace on the pass to thread in Roberts down the right, and it was just a really bad pass. But I mean, that's sort of being picky. So yeah, Chris Rigg gets a 6 from me. And then, Johnny, I'll let you do the attackers. Tommy Watson. Oh. Go on.
I mean, I want to give him a 0 like Andy did in the player ratings, but I feel harsh, especially after Bomber's impassioned speech. So I'll give him a 1. And that is because he was on the pitch.
It couldn't have been that impassioned.
you knocked him up a point, so take that.
Paddy Robertson, Mayenda. Let's see what you think about them.
Mayenda's getting at least a 9, and I'd have given more if he'd played the full game up front. I think he suffered a little bit getting shunted out wide and then getting taken off. So and a 9 for him because the goal was superb and his all-round play was great. Like you said, Gav, I thought he led the line really well, and he's definitely more suited to that role than Isidore is. Roberts, I actually thought I had like quite a good game considering the circumstances. His best attribute was getting on the ball higher up and running at people and like dragging us up. We weren't doing too much of that when we were down to 10 men for the end of the whole game. But I'll give him like a 6.5. Thought he had some nice touches. A couple of times he was beating people, and he had that shot when Mayenda laid him off, which, it was typical Roberts in a sense because, keeper could have maybe not quite chucked his hat on it, but maybe chucked a bike helmet on it and stopped it in its tracks. But he was bright, and I think it's, Roberts going forward, I think he'll offer us a lot more than he did today.
Yeah, I'm going to give a round of 6s to the subs because, whatever. Job, possibly at fault for the second goal, but whatever. Brown wasn't really on long enough. Isidore, a couple of decent moments where he linked up with Mayenda, but also a couple of moments where he really should have held the ball up better and just went flying, and that again just highlights the difference between him and Mayenda. Salis, I thought, looked okay when he came on, actually. Might give him a 7. Thought Salis did pretty well. Again, a bit like Swansea, came on and did okay. And then Joe Anderson, 10 out of 10, just for not falling over his own shoelaces, bless him. Right, okay, we will quickly go on to some 3-word reviews from the Roker Report Twitter followers. We've got tons, and I'm not going to read out 46, otherwise I'll be here all night, but we'll do a bunch of them. Rama, John, he says, decent training exercise. I'd agree with that. NC Dogs fan, ref Bigley fuck up. Okay. Richie Martin says Watson's last game. Robert Wilson, stop playing Watson. Chris Wiley, Tommy's not arse. Aaron says fuck off Watson. Keith C says
there, isn't there?
Yeah. Shane Hagan says Watson is gash. Billy Blythe says surrounded the referee. That's a point about the red card because I listened to the Sunderland stream today, and Danny Collins made a point to mention that a few times about how Bristol City, soon as there was even something, minimally contentious, would just surround the referee to try and get a decision. And I think that might have helped him get the red card. Chris Sparks says Tommy Watson disgraceful. Gary H says Watson's a coward. Johnny Young says cheating Natty Wells. Yep, dived all over the place all day. Ethan, ref ruined it. Michael Snow, ref spoiled game. Graham Brown, Watson was shite. Jamie, Watson is shite. Nice variation there. David Kinsey, appeal red card. Yeah, do you think we should do that? Do you think we should appeal that? Because I don't know how much of a knock. It's only going to be one game, but
on the assumption it's only going to be one, then there's no point, because Trai Hume is probably the one player left that is in need of some sort of a rest between now and a playoff semi-final. So just accept it. Accept a game, even if it's 2. Accept the 2. Bring him back for the last game of the season and for the playoffs. Just let it go.
I don't disagree with that, but I'm really petty, so I would appeal it.
JT, bin off Watson. Dave Johnson, go away Watson. That's nice and polite. Tony, nice defensive training. DV says, Wells a cheat. JT, ha Brighton. Artie Musk Pile says, just treading water. Tom says, drop Watson now. Alex Campbell says, Watson, how much? With a question mark and loads of smileys. Anth Miller, referee's a wanker. That's sort of nice. He's put 2 words together there. Gary Buckley, another drab friendly. Walex Walben, not a red. The Skinster, Bristol in playoffs with an emoji with the fingers crossed, which is basically what we said before.
Yeah.
Ian Bowater, ref, total muppet. Never knows best, says referee was shit. And we'll end off on Ethan's message, which says robbed Brighton. I'll start again. Ethan's message says robbed Brighton blind. So there we go. Why did I have to fuck up the last one? I got the wall there.
He did so well.
And my tongue just decided to go into a knot.
There's definitely a theme there, isn't there?
Yeah, bit of a theme. Ref was shite. Wasn't a red card. Watson's crap. Blah blah blah. Basically, the theme of that one. Anyways, I guess we'll leave it there, boys. I mean, not one that we're going to cry about. I don't think I'm bothered. I don't think you lot are. I think the fact that we had 10 men for the full game will probably dampen down some of the negativity after this. Right. I think the people who like after Swansea were a bit pissed off will probably stand back and have the same view as everybody else and say, well, it was tough regardless, because we had 10 men, and for a large portion of the game we were in the lead and looked good for it and defended pretty well. So, still things to take from it, and we've got another game coming up on Monday, and it's another one we've just got to try and get through. Another one that's a bit of preparation work. I mean, Blackburn had a good win today, so they'll be bouncing, hoping to get into the playoffs, although it looks slim, because I think they've got to have a lot go their way to be able to do that. But still, it should make it a little bit more interesting on Monday. And I guess we'll see what happens. We've got on, what is it there? Friday. I know you said Sunday there. On Saturday, we've got a proper review / look ahead to the playoffs with another legend from going back a few years. Gordon Armstrong's joining us. Over 400 appearances in a Sunderland shirt, played in a playoff final for Sunderland, so knows all about that sort of thing. And like Gary Hours, who was on the preview, is someone who knows his onions. So we've got Gordon Armstrong joining us for the review pod with Chris and Martin. And then on Sunday, we'll have the Blackburn preview with a Blackburn fan called Ian, who we spoke to earlier in the week. So, we do make that clear on the pod. It was recorded a couple of days ago because Easter's so busy, but we didn't want people to miss out on the regular podcast. So we've got a preview coming up. And then after that, of course, we'll have a review as well, where we're hoping to be joined by another Sunderland legend, Martin Smith. We'll see. So we've got loads coming up over the coming days. Lots of good guests, including these 2 chaps here. I'm not going to go without saying thank you very much to Jonny and Bomber. Thank you, lads, for joining us.
Thanks, right? Thanks.
Pleasure as always.
Yes, thank you to the listeners. Like I say, we'll be back with a proper pod. I say a proper pod. This is a proper pod.
Oh, cheers.
Pod. 2 proper Rotor reporters, like Chris and Martin, who actually do research in that. Proper people. And they'll be back tomorrow with a bit more of an in-depth look at the game. So make sure you catch that one, and also make sure you go back and go through the archives. There's plenty to catch up on the Howie the podcast feed. We'll catch you on the next one. We'll see you later.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.